A departure no one saw coming. What they're not saying might shock you. ESPN's silence and timing of the announcement seems very interesting. It started quietly, then exploded. In April, news broke that Shannon Sharpe was being sued by an ex-girlfriend who accused him of sexual assault and battery. The headlines were everywhere, but the details? Murky at best. Sharpe immediately pushed back, calling the allegations false and disruptive. Still, the damage was done. Public perception was already shifting, and suddenly, one of sports media's biggest names was off the air. But then nothing. No court battle. No press coverage. Just silence until July, when word got out that the lawsuit had been settled out of court. The terms? Confidential. The case? Dismissed with prejudice, meaning it couldn't be filed again. No admission of guilt. No trial. Just or done. For many, the settlement seemed like the end of the story. But for Sharpe, it was just the beginning of something even bigger, a quiet unraveling of his career at ESPN. But stepping away from ESPN wasn't just about the lawsuit. Behind-the-scenes exit from ESPN. The moment the lawsuit went public, Shannon Sharpe disappeared from ESPN. No explanation. No formal statement. Just a sudden leave of absence from First Take, the show where he'd quickly become a fan favorite. At first, it looked like a temporary move. Sharpe himself said he planned to return in time for the NFL preseason. And after the lawsuit was quietly settled in July, most people assumed he'd be back in the studio any day now. But behind the scenes, something was shifting. The silence from ESPN wasn't just awkward, it was calculated. No promo teases. No replacement announcements. No mention of Sharpe at all. For a network known for capitalizing on personalities, that quiet felt louder than any headline. Weeks passed. Then, out of nowhere, insiders confirmed the truth. Shannon Sharpe wasn't coming back. And then came the twist. Sharpe finally spoke out, but not on ESPN. ESPN pulls the plug. Quietly, there was no farewell segment. No highlight reel. No tweet from the network. Just silence until sources confirmed what fans had feared. ESPN had made the decision to move on from Shannon Sharpe. And they didn't want to talk about it. It was a stunning move for a network that had just brought Sharpe over with huge fanfare. His chemistry with Stephen A. Smith was electric. Viewers tuned in for Sharpe. He wasn't just another analyst, he was the show for a lot of people. And yet, the network's decision came with zero explanation, leaving the public to connect the dots between the lawsuit, the leave of absence, and his abrupt removal. Why stay silent? Was ESPN protecting its brand? Avoiding controversy? Or was this just how powerful companies quietly cut ties when the headlines get too messy? But while ESPN stayed quiet, Sharpe had something to say, and he chose his own mic to say it. Sharpe breaks his silence. If ESPN wouldn't speak up, Shannon Sharpe would. But not on TV. Not through a press release. He addressed everything on his own podcast, Nightcap, where he could control the narrative and the tone. There, he confirmed what fans had already heard. He wasn't coming back. But instead of bitterness or outrage, Sharpe sounded calm. He admitted he was disappointed not just by the decision, but by the timing. The news broke right before his brother's induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, a moment that should have been all about celebration. Instead, it came with the weight of an unwanted spotlight. Still, Sharpe said he was at peace with it all. He thanked ESPN for the opportunity and made it clear he was moving forward. There were no outbursts, no blame. Just a man who knew when it was time to pivot. And that pivot, it might be the start of something even bigger. What's next for Shannon Sharpe? Shannon Sharpe may be gone from ESPN, but he's far from sidelined. He retains full control over to major platforms Club Shay Shay and Nightcap, which continue drawing strong audiences. Even before the lawsuit surfaced, he was reportedly nearing a major podcast deal that could give him serious independence. Stephen A. Smith, his longtime partner on First Take, has been vocal in support. On his YouTube and Heart Radio shows, he emphatically stated, "Do I believe Shannon Sharpe is guilty of what he has been accused of? Absolutely not. I'll always be here for him if he needs me. It was a blow to the show, a blow to me personally. I'm going to miss him." But it was not a surprise. Sandra Rose Stephen A. also made clear that Sharpe didn't leave by choice. "I'm telling you, he was pushed out. He didn't want to leave. He was notified that your services would no longer be needed. Reddit Plus for the Spun, Plus for Daily Express, US Plus for Dan Labattard, another influential voice formerly at ESPN, spoke more starkly. Shannon Sharpe is not likely to ever work at ESPN again. Reddit Plus 15, essentially Sports Plus 15, where's the Buzz Plus 15? The reaction from fans echoes the consensus that ESPN has lost something intangible in letting him go. On Reddit, I tuned in for Shannon. His charisma made even boring topics entertaining. Reddit First Take just seems so corporate. Shannon is a lot more sanitized and people walk on eggshells around him. The Times of India plus 8, Thurat plus 8, Barrett Media plus 8, former ESPN anchors facing their own controversies, including Sage Steele and Ashley Brewer-Kaminsky criticized the network as handling of Sharpe's case, arguing ESPN was too silent and selective in its internal enforcement. Cam Newton shared thoughts by disclosing he considers Sharpe a friend, advisor, and someone he flat out looks up to and holds to a high regard. "No matter what you got going on, poppin' unpoppin', successful unsuccessful, just be careful. Human rights is real. No means no. People have the right to feel offended and feel any type of way," Newton said during an episode of his 4th and 1 show. "When you see things develop, his image will take a hit." Shannon Sharpe has been a person in media that is relatable to the culture. You hope that he's innocent, but you don't want to be misogynistic to the young lady and what she feels to be an assault. So, dare I speak on a developing story, but I just know who Shannon Sharpe is to me. Monique's name immediately entered the conversation when the case news broke. Fans began recirculating a clip from her February 2020 for Club Shay Shay appearance when she warned the ESPN pundit that he shouldn't date young B*****. She also said he needs an old gal instead who will most likely be more his speed and want to take advantage of his financial status. After the news broke, Mo made sure to have her "I told you so" moment during the May 3rd stop on Cat Williams' Heaven on Earth comedy tour. The Deliverance star reminded people that she attempted to give the former Denver Broncos some relationship advice. "Here it come, baby. Here it come, goddammit," Monique warned the crowd as she fired off her next joke. "Yes, I told that N*** Shannon Sharpe leave the white bees alone," she said while the crowd laughed and cheered. Meanwhile, Chad Ochocinco Johnson has publicly hinted at stepping into Sharpe's on-air shoes. He has been lobbying for a role on First Take this NFL season. What it all means, Sharpe's autonomy is now his biggest asset. His media empire, free from corporate constraints, continues growing. Celebrity allies like Stephen A. are keeping his reputation afloat. Their unwavering support reinforces Sharpe's public image. Fans believe the show lost its spark without him. Viewers feel First Take has lost its core energy and dynamic. ESPN insiders fear backlash. Criticism from past anchors suggests deeper industry discomfort with the network's approach. Sharpe might have exited ESPN, but his digital platforms and dedicated fan base are just getting started. Was this ESPN's call or something deeper? Officially, ESPN never gave a reason for letting Shannon Sharpe go. No press release. No farewell montage. No comment. Just a quiet, calculated distance. But behind the silence, a bigger story was unfolding, and it might say more about corporate strategy than it does about Sharpe himself. Insiders say this wasn't a mutual decision. According to Stephen A. Smith, Sharpe was pushed out, plain and simple. He didn't want to leave. He was told his services were no longer needed. And the timing? Just after a lawsuit surfaced, despite no legal finding of guilt, and despite a private settlement that legally ended the matter. For some, that makes the network's move look more like brand protection than justice. Others, like Dan Labattard, see it as inevitable. He believes that once the allegations surfaced, Disney, the parent company of ESPN, likely made the call. Not because of what was proven, but because of what could damage their image. In a post-#MeToo landscape, even the appearance of controversy is enough to get a high-profile name quietly removed. But it's not just what ESPN did, it's what they didn't do. Critics, including ex-ESPN anchors Sage Steele and Ashley Brewer, have slammed the network for what they call selective accountability. In their view, ESPN has a history of inconsistent discipline, and Sharpe's case only exposed that further. Why the silence here when others were given platforms to speak? Then there's the deeper question. Was Sharpe's bold, unfiltered style always too much for a corporate giant like ESPN? His debates went viral. His quotes were raw. His voice didn't always feel curated. And that might have been a bigger risk than any lawsuit. Because when a media company trades real voices for safe silence, who's really in control of the story? Conclusion: the legacy in limbo extended. Shannon Sharpe didn't just exit a show, he was quietly erased from an empire. No farewell, no tribute, not even a tweet. For a man who helped turn First Take into appointment viewing, the silence from ESPN felt louder than any statement they could have made. But this wasn't just about a job. It was about a reputation, a public figure, a legacy. One that now sits in a strange space, not destroyed, but not untouched either. The lawsuit was settled, yes. But in the court of public perception, that doesn't always matter. For some, he's innocent. For others, the mere association was enough to stain his name. And ESPN knew that. That's what makes this so complicated. Sharpe wasn't fired for poor performance, he was at the top of his game. His banner with Stephen A. Smith was ratings gold. But when controversy hit, he became a liability. Not because of a verdict, but because of optics. Corporate America doesn't wait for the full story, they react to headlines. And once those headlines got messy, Sharpe's future at ESPN was quietly sealed. Still, Sharpe didn't crumble. He pivoted. And now, with Club Shay Shay and Nightcap, he's building a media lane where he calls the shots. No producers to silence his opinions. No network execs to walk on eggshells. No filters. Just him and the mic. And maybe that's where Shannon Sharpe thrives best, unfiltered, unbothered, and unapologetically himself. But that doesn't change what happened. It doesn't change how quickly he went from celebrated talent to invisible asset. It doesn't change the way ESPN handled or avoided the fallout. So viewers are left to ask, was this justice or damage control? Was this about truth or brand safety? And how many more careers could vanish the same way? Because if it can happen to someone as bold, beloved, and bankable as Shannon Sharpe, it can happen to anyone. This wasn't just a departure. It was a message.